I'd like to share with you one of my pictures with God. I kind of like to keep the pictures of the times when God has met me in my life during the hard times frozen, just like a picture in my mind. My picture is a picture of a pair of running shoes. Not a nice pair, but a dirty, old, stinky pair of running shoes. And of course, they come with a story. I was never stuck in the belly of a dark whale or in a den full of lions, but the time of my life that I'd like to share with you was a time that was kind of dark and a kind of time when everything in my life seemed to be circling around me. All my troubles felt like lions. It's been some time, but I can blink my eyes and I'm right back there in that time once again. I was in graduate school at the University of Central Florida, and it was during this time that my family was hit by a series of tragedies. We would lose 4 people in a very short period of time. I lost a cousin to leukemia, an uncle to prostate cancer, and one of my childhood friends was killed by a drunk driver. All of these were pretty tough for us, but most definitely the hardest thing that we went through was the loss of my younger brother, Mark. At 23 years of age, he committed suicide. And it left my family devastated. And I remember feeling like my life had been just thrown to the ground like a plate, and all I had left were these pieces of glass in my hands. I was pretty broken, and I lived that way for a while. One night, as I was going to bed, I realized I couldn't sleep, and I just knew I didn't want to live that way anymore. And so I did the only thing that I knew to do at the time. I got on my knees and I started to pray. And I remember giving all those little pieces that I thought were my life to God. I gave Him all the pain that I felt, all the hurt, all the sadness, every ounce of sorrow that I had. I just threw it up to Him, and I asked Him to come in my heart and help me deal with all that. And in that very instant, I remember feeling like this incredible weight had been lifted from my shoulders, and a light had been turned on inside of me. And all the energy in my life just started to shift. I remember feeling like I really wanted to know God. And things started to, day by day, get better. Sure, about now you're wondering where the running shoes fit in. Well, I started getting these invitations from the Leukemia Society. They were inviting me to go to an informational meeting for their team and training group. So I was kind of intrigued by it, so I went. And it just sounded so exciting and so much part of something I wanted to be involved with that before I knew it, I'd signed my name on the dotted line and I was running the Disney Marathon. I remember them talking to us about how only about 2% of the population ever even attempts to run a marathon, and thinking not too much of that at the time. But when I met with my coach the first time, I started realizing exactly what that training would involve. And it was a little intimidating. I remember him talking to us about how, we would be meeting together as a team every Saturday morning to do our long runs together, and how every other week we would be meeting as a team to do drill work, and how each of us would be handed a schedule that was unique to us of our individual training that we would do alone. But I had signed up and I felt committed to this, so I was going to do it. And I trained, and I trained, and I trained. And when marathon day rolled around, I remember going to check in with my team and having all those butterflies in my stomach and being nervous and thinking I'm never going to be able to finish this. I went in and I checked in and then realized that I would be separated from the rest of my team because they kind of group you in batches according to your estimated finish time. So I would be running alone. But here I was going to finish. When the gun sounded, I started running. I ran for 16 miles before I got my first cramp. And for those first 16 miles, I ran a continuous prayer with God, just hoping that He would please get me to the finish line before that first cramp came. But I worked it out, and I kept on running. And it was about mile 20 that I hit my wall. It was pretty tough. I felt like, I was lifting cinder blocks instead of my feet. And I just really started thinking, you know what, I'm not going to make this. And I remember throughout this whole run that I kept praying to God and kept praying to Him that He would be with me and that He would help me through this. And what was amazing is right there when I thought that I couldn't lift my foot one more time, I ran into a group of people from the Leukemia Society. And I noticed on their faces that they had the same look of despair that I did. And I started running with these three other people, and we started laughing and joking and kind of just, pumping each other up. And we made it. All of us crossed the finish line. We had run 26.2 miles. And one of them actually had dragged me across the finish line. And it was just the most amazing feeling. I just remember feeling like where before I felt so defeated in my life, just crossing that finish line, I felt like, wow, I could conquer the world, that I could do just about anything. And it was one of the most amazing moments of my life.